Well, welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends. We're glad you could attend. Come inside, come inside. Welcome once again to Garden America. Happy weekend to you. The boys are back in town, back in studio from the iHeart Media and Entertainment Studio, San Diego, California. It's John Begnasco, Tiger Palafox. I think I'm Brian Main. Tiger, welcome. We've been talking irrigation this morning before we went on the air. How about that?
How much we need it because we don't have any rain.
We need irrigation because there's no rain. John, how is your irrigation?
Well, Tiger set it up, so it
He
works.
doesn't want to badmouth me right here.
It works well, except for one area because of the wind.
Oh, the wind. Okay.
Well, but
you won't. I don't think you can guess why the wind made it not work.
Guess why the wind
I
made
have
it
cement
not
tiles
work.
on my roof. Blew
Okay.
a cement tile off the roof, came crashing down right on a sprinkler head and broke it.
All right. So, wait,
but that's the reason why it doesn't work. There's
Right.
a broken sprinkler.
Oh yeah, not because
Not because of the
you did.
wind.
Well, let's back
No.
up.
Well, yeah,
I was thinking.
the wind knocked the cement shingle off the
well,
roof.
yeah,
I
let's
gotcha, I
back up.
gotcha.
The wind knocked off a cement shingle.
Right.
And your
And
home
then-
is how old?
3 years.
Do you have any warranty or guarantee on that roof?
I don't know. I have to look it up.
That's
Let me
amazing.
ask
against
ChatGPT.
tornadoes.
That's strong wind.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Right.
what I was thinking. As a matter of fact, I have one tree that Tiger planted that was my favorite tree that is blown over, and I haven't stood back up. And the reason I haven't stood it back up is Tiger says he's going to come over someday.
and he's waiting for me.
Yeah, but can't
Which
can't
tree
you,
is it? The bougainvillea?
No,
Which
no.
tree?
The I did have to stake the bougainvillea back
Oh.
up, but the one you planted, the pink trumpet tree.
Oh,
and
yeah.
there's no place to tie it to support it in the meantime.
It is tied, but everything's blown over.
Yeah. There's
Wow.
been some winds out there, like
Yeah.
John's saying.
And
So.
that area along my driveway, everything was planted with a jackhammer. So I think the roots only go down so far.
They're in this little bowl
The
underneath.
jackhammer effect.
Speaking of wind, though, when we were traveling through Europe, and you see it when you travel, kind of everywhere, where they'll have those
Right.
hedgerows, and they're all just leaning.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
whatever wind direction is the most common, and it just blows the hedge or the tree in one direction. That's amazing, because it takes a lot, but it'll do it.
We don't use hedgerows here, but that's everywhere you go, right?
Yeah.
In Europe,
Yeah,
a lot of
exactly.
that.
Instead of fences, they put up the separation.
Yeah. They only
So-
put up fences if they have vegetables.
So
Keep the
otherwise,
critters
how
away.
was your week besides things blowing off the roof now and then?
Trying to think. I felt like I was having withdrawals because you had a whole week where you could not work outside.
Oh,
I mean, what's the point? Everything's just blowing everywhere.
Yeah.
I can't pick things up because the wind just blows them down again. So yesterday, finally the wind stopped blowing, and I'm trying to assess the damage and help things recover, stand them back up. Started planning again.
those things that come up through your life with age, that all of a sudden you hit things and you're like, oh, I'm just getting old. I think this is one of those times for me, in the sense of, I'm outside, there's the hot, dry air,
Right.
and my eyes are just like killing me. Like, I just cannot keep them wet. You
And
know what I
it's
mean?
Something that did not occur previously.
Yeah, before, when there would be Santa Ana winds
Yeah.
in San Diego, it didn't really bother me. It's just dry air, hot, dry air. And now when I walk outside during a Santa Ana or a dry spell, I never bought eye drops before. And now I have to buy eye drops.
Yeah, that could be
I cannot survive without
an
them.
indication. I remember, I don't know when it was, but I would start sneezing, and then I'd sneeze again, and maybe a day or so later sneeze and, oh, well, you got an allergy. You're allergic to something. I go, I've never had never been allergic to anything. Well, you know, all of a sudden it can just start.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, what is it? No, you got to kind of figure it out. And it's like, it's like one of those things, a trigger. Careful about the eye drops you buy over the counter.
Why?
You want Refresh Plus.
Okay.
Don't use Visine.
Okay.
Yeah, my eye doctor said, do not buy most anything off the shelf.
Really?
Yeah, and John is right. Yeah, because you know what?
Refresh Plus is off the shelf, but it's a little more expensive.
And it's a little more, I think, accepted with doctors. And
Okay. Good to
because
know.
putting any eye drop in your eye can be detrimental.
Okay. Good to
When's
know.
the last time you went to the eye doctor?
Oh, it's been a while. Yeah, I need to go back.
I
for that,
guarantee.
for sure. What are they going to tell me though?
That you need glasses?
That I need glasses. And
Well, yeah, you know why?
Getting old.
Because it's a slow process, and you don't even realize it. And then so the day that you do get the glasses,
it's amazing.
it's an epiphany. You'll say, because I remember I said, does everyone see like this? They go,
wait a minute.
Yeah, that's normal. Here's one for you. Do you drive at night at all?
Yes.
Okay. The next time you're driving at night and there's an overpass up ahead of you and there's the green freeway sign, look at it and see how close you have to be until you can read it.
Until I can read it.
Uh-huh.
And then I'll go to the eye doctor, and then I'll be able to read it 2 miles away.
I guarantee you've got eye problems.
Yeah.
You know? Don't you think he does?
You know, I miss my ophthalmology class.
Yeah, you do.
College.
Do you wear glasses or anything?
He has contacts.
No.
Do you? No.
Not only do I don't wear contacts.
Oh,
No?
you don't?
I haven't worn contacts for 10 years.
Then you
Did
had,
you
the,
have an
you had
eye
the
surgery?
surgery done, didn't you?
Or do you just have good eyes?
No.
No,
No?
nobody has good eyes over 40.
No.
Brian's holding.
I had lens replacement.
Okay.
So they,
Is that cataracts?
well, I had because I needed to have a cataract operation, they did the lens replacement at the same time. They said, you'll never get cataracts again.
Oh.
And because of that, I don't need glasses to read, so I can read close
So
up.
you had a surgery to fix everything.
Yeah.
And so therefore, no
Yes.
contacts, no glasses. And
Right.
why do you wear glasses over getting a surgery, Brian?
Easier. I don't
Yeah.
want to get the surgery. I don't want
Okay.
them poking around my eyes.
Yeah.
Just have them do one eye at a time.
You know, Dana had it done. She had it done, and she
The
loves
worst that
it.
happens is you become a pirate.
Arr. Yeah, Dana can see far away. She can see close up. I would say, what does this say? Here, read this.
Yeah.
Why get glass? You know, why do that when I can have somebody read it to me? But I just like the glasses. Put them on.
Like
What
learning
the
to
heck?
drive.
Yeah, like learning to drive.
Why? Why should I? Why
So,
should
any
I?
medical questions?
Yeah,
Post them right there on our
exactly.
Facebook page here, Garden America.
We're, America Healthcare?
Yeah,
America
Garden America
Healthcare Show?
Healthcare.
Hopefully, the health questions will refer to plants.
Yeah,
Plant
please.
material we can help.
So, but what if you have now? This time of the year, I'm not sure how prevalent it is. What if you're dealing with pests? Do we have an answer for pest problems, Tiger?
That's why this show exists, Brian.
Because our guest today is going to be
Yeah, we're going to be talking with Josh. Josh is with Doug's Bugs, a pest control company here in San Diego. But we're going to be talking about like critters. We're going to be talking about pests. We're going to be talking about a lot of things.
It
But
will relate to almost everybody listening or watching.
Guaranteed. I think John's got the quote of the week queued up and
He
ready
better,
as
he
well.
better have the quote of the week.
I do. The quote's from garden writer Josephine Noose. And she said, anyone who thinks that gardening begins in the spring and ends in the fall is missing the best part of the whole year. For gardening begins in January with the dream.
Yep.
Well, let's see. The dream for those under 6 feet of snow.
Is to get out and
For
garden.
those of us out here, we can still piddle around in the garden. I know you do every day.
Well,
I try to get out there and do something. What? You don't like my choice of words? Look, he's
No,
trying
I-
to filter
I-
himself.
Yeah,
Yeah,
see,
he is.
that's-
He totally filtered
yeah,
himself.
I did.
You know what it is? He never used to clean the filter. I said, John, it's like a fish tank or it's like water. You got to
have to-
clean the filter. Otherwise, it's going to go right through. And you can tell us
listened to you.
his filter's clean. We got about a minute to go.
So yeah, no, but yeah, Josh is going to be talking about critters. We're going to be talking about pests, and how they associate with the garden, because
Right.
people don't always think like when they have ants, when they have spiders, when they have all these things. Sometimes we can start attributing it to what's happening in the yard and why then it's happening in your house. So We're going to be having a good conversation. So get your questions lined up in the Facebook chat.
Right, and want to welcome those on Biz Talk Radio. Thank you so much for tuning in every week. We do it 2 hours. Hopefully you get at least 1 hour. Maybe in your market you get 2 hours, and that is fantastic. If you do want to watch the show, catch the show live, go to our Facebook page, Garden America Radio Show. We kick things off right about 8 o'clock, a little bit after on the West Coast, a little bit after 11 o'clock on the East Coast. Mountain Central Time, you can do the math, but it is Garden America, known worldwide these days here, not just in this country, but around the world, and hopefully up your alley at some point if you don't catch the show. So with that in mind, we are going to take a break. Welcoming you once again, Biz Talk Radio, Facebook Live. I'm Brian Main, John Begnasco, Tiger Palafox. We're going to take a break, pay some bills. Want to welcome our sponsor for 2025, a continuing sponsor, the big one, Fertilome. Back after these messages on Garden America. All right, we are back after that break here on Garden America, kicking off your weekend. Thank you for joining us, taking time out to talk a little gardening. And right now, Tiger, with Josh, we're going to talk about those darn pests. So Josh is ready to go.
Yeah, we have Josh joining us with Doug's Bugs, a San Diego-based pest control company servicing all of San Diego County for your termites, spider, ants, critter problems. Josh, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah, and so Josh, tell us a little bit more about Doug's Bugs. I mean, I think we kind of have an idea of what pest control companies do for the most part, but what are some other things that people don't always associate with a pest control company that maybe you can inform us about?
Well, it's probably easier just to talk about like the services that we do offer. We do, just like the general treatments that you're probably familiar with, like you had said, the ants, spiders, roaches, things like that. We also do provide both commercial and residential treatments. So if it's not just your home, but your business that's being affected, we can help you out there. We do provide full termite treatments. We do like subterranean jobs. We do the fumigation, tenting around homes. And then we also dabble into some of the more specialized treatments as well. So that would be things like rodent control, gopher control. We treat for bed bugs, treat for mosquitoes, some of those kind of more niche and difficult things to target. As far as like what we specialize in, though, if I had to pick any one thing that I'd say we stand out at doing, it's actually just getting the job done right the first time. I know that might seem kind of shocking to hear as like a specialty, but I feel like it's actually not that common for companies to really nail that point right.
Yeah.
Hey, Josh, let me ask you a question because, you talked about all the things you do, and something that did not come to my mind until you mentioned it were bed bugs. Now, that grosses a lot of people out. It's very creepy. Is it a big problem? Are bed bugs really something that a lot of people deal with or that you see on a daily basis?
Definitely not a daily basis, no. So California being a bit more of a friendly climate outside, things don't just have to live indoors to survive winters here. It very rarely dips below freezing. And so a lot of bugs can survive outdoors. Now, bed bugs are specially adapted to live indoors, but it tends to be worse in areas where humans are more concentrated. So like metropolitan areas, not to name drop a state too hard, but Maryland is apparently like a haven for bed bugs.
Oh, wow.
But they are a very real pest. It's actually kind of unfortunate because the way that a lot of like sciences and pest control operate, a lot of funding and efforts and things go to thwart, critters that are bad for us, like things that spread disease or could destroy your house or something like that. And bed bugs are a little bit different in the sense that they actually don't spread any diseases. There's not a single pathogen that they are known to spread. And really what's terrible about bed bugs is the impact they have on your mental health. If you can't sleep at night, you can't function.
Right. Yeah, you're just sitting there and you think these things are crawling all over you, and you're exhausted. You're starting to hallucinate.
And of all the places to have to deal with that, your bed is supposed to be safe.
Yeah,
and that is very creepy. Hey, real quickly, John, do we have questions coming in?
We have a
lot of questions.
Yeah, I was going to say.
we haven't even really introduced Josh yet. So Josh, just to cue you up.
A lot of people
just
waiting to talk
letting you
to
know
you.
on our Facebook chat, it just started blowing up with questions. But I do want to give us a little bit of moment to be able to kind of introduce you and a little bit about you and your background. You have this passion for pest control, which, is really amazing because we need people like you to help us and, help us understand what you just said. You don't want bed bugs, but, it's not the end of the world when people think it is. We can come out, we can help you. Where did this passion for pest control come from, Josh?
It's hard to pick any one particular thing that made me passionate about it. It's kind of more of it just checks every box for me. And I'm kind of a weird guy where, I could never imagine sitting behind a desk 8 hours a day, typing at a computer, doing spreadsheets, or anything like that. I'm the kind of guy that just needs to be outside, doing stuff with my hands. And that very much is this job. It's a very, very hands-on career where you're working directly with animals. You're working directly with heavy machinery, chemicals, and most of all, this is probably what surprises most people. People. It's very much a customer service job. You are not going to dodge human conversations by being in pest control. It's very much about getting along with people and getting them to give you the right information. And then providing solutions for them.
Yeah.
So all of that just kind of checks every box for me. Some of my background is I actually did go to college. I have a bit of a unique opportunity to have a little bit more of an educated perspective when it comes to pest control. The degree I got was a Bachelor of Science in Biology. I wanted to study wildlife sciences and animals and things like that. I had difficulty getting a job coming out of college, and lo and behold, pest control is always hiring. If I actually had to pick one particular item that made me go into pest control, as funny as this sounds, it was for health insurance. When you're a broke college student and you haven't found work in a year, and you need health insurance, it's kind of like a big beacon, attracting you to the job.
Yeah, exactly. That is great. Hey, we all have our breaks in other ways or not. And
got to do what you got to do.
Exactly. So let's jump right in. I know we have a lot to cover, Josh, but we also, like I said, got a lot of questions that came in.
Yeah, you're going to be here for a while, Josh.
And Tanya, I'm going to read this question because I think it actually hits a few different aspects of maybe pest and pest control that we can associate with here. And the question is, I've lived on my street for 60 years and never had this problem before. There has been an explosion of crickets. When they were outside, we could deal with them, but lately they've been coming inside. I have been using sticky traps and getting good results, but also thinking how bad this would be if I wasn't catching so many. My question is, why so many and why are they coming inside now? Any suggestions besides sticky traps? Though we're happy with those results. So I think that this is a great question because it's directed towards crickets, but I think that this happens with other varieties of pests through the year, or there are probably big years and bad years associated with these pests. So, Josh, and just to let you know, we only have about a minute left at this spot, so we can get started, but I'm going to cut in and we're going to take a small break.
Yeah, no pressure, Josh.
Should probably mention, too, that Tanya's in San Jose.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, I was going to thank you.
You know what? Why don't we just take that break now?
Okay.
Hey, Josh, hang in there as far as the break. Going to be a quick break for Facebook Live, a bit longer for Biz Talk Radio. We are going to come back with Josh because, again, we've touched a very hot topic with our people on Facebook Live this morning. A lot of questions, so hang in there. We will get to your questions. It is Garden America, Brian Main, John Begnasco, Tiger Palafox, taking a break for our friends on Biz Talk Radio. Stay with us. Well, welcome back from that break on Biz Talk Radio, Facebook Live. Thank you for tuning in. A lot of people, again, very interested in this topic because, after all, it touches most everybody who's tuned in. So, again, glad to have Josh on board, Tiger, as we continue and go back to the questions and addressing Josh.
Yeah, Josh. So our question came from Tanya in San Jose, and it had to do with a large population or a large influx of crickets. So I think that you could probably take this topic and run with it with a few different ways. So Josh, go ahead.
Oh man, I already have so many loaded answers for you. Actually, I first want to kind of segue off of that because it'll loop back around to the same topic. So what you're experiencing right now with the crickets is actually really widespread in San Diego right now, but with a slightly different pest. So if you've noticed, especially over the last few months, the temperature has dropped significantly, and it is still dropping quite a bit. You know, it'll be 70, 75 during the day, and then it's hitting like 40 degrees at night. When that happens, the exterior of your home is no longer suitable for a lot of living things. And actually in San Diego right now, unfortunately, a lot of homeowners are discovering that they have these issues with their homes where there's screens missing in their crawl space vents, or their plumbing is not perfectly sealed off under their kitchen sink. And actually rodents, as of recently, have been like the biggest headache for us. Not headache, I mean, it's business, it's good for us, but it's almost getting ridiculous where we are like a very small company. So for us to get like a new call for business is a bigger deal than, one of these larger brands getting just a single call for business. But I would say on average, I've been getting at least one new account a day with just rodent issues and nothing else.
Wow.
And that's never happened. I mean, I've been in the industry for almost 7 years, and in that time, I've never seen like this high of a volume of that issue taking place. But to circle back around to the crickets, it's kind of the same thing. You know, bugs they're not warm-blooded like us; they're cold-blooded. So the ambient temperature kind of directs them. It basically makes their life decisions for them. If it's too cold outside, they will not survive, and so they need to come in. So for the most part, probably the reason why you're seeing crickets, I'm sorry, again, I think you said in your garage, and they're starting to get into your home.
Yeah, no, they were just outside our home, and now they're actually coming in.
Yeah.
Right. So a lot of that just has to do with very like rudimentary exclusion issues. Things like, making sure your garage door sits flush across your driveway, installing like door sweeps and metal skirting at the bottom of door frames. Generally speaking, if you can get things sealed up to about a 1/4 inch or less, that will prevent pretty much anything from entering your home.
Okay. And you're saying as a general rule, whether it's crickets or mice or, fleas or cockroaches or any of these things, you're saying right now the temperatures are getting low, they're looking for warmth, they're going to try to get in your house. There's things you can do to keep them out, but nonetheless, during this time of year, you're probably fighting on all those aspects of it because they're trying to get in the house to get away from the cold.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
There is a lot, though, that can be done to prevent that. It just, it requires a lot of prep work.
Uh-huh. And what about some of the products that maybe you guys use? I mean, is there things designed that are to be almost act as a barrier outside the home that, you guys can apply and use?
Oh, man. Yeah, that's also a really funny question to touch on, because I feel like chemicals and really just pesticides in general are a very misunderstood topic when it comes to pest control. Maybe this will only touch with a younger audience, but when it comes to invertebrates, so like bugs, spiders, insects, things like that, excuse me, a lot of the times it's almost like you're playing Pokemon, where these things have certain behaviors or characteristics, and you just have to find a product that is going to take advantage of those behaviors or characteristics. So, for example, if you have like an ant issue, you would not use the same products to treat an ant issue as you would like a scorpion issue, because they're just two radically different bugs. Ants are more numerous. You're going to have way more ants on your property than you are scorpions. I don't care who you are or where you live. That's just a fact.
We hope so.
Yeah,
if you ever go to a property that has more scorpions than ants, let me know, Josh, because I will never go there.
That's great.
But as far as crickets go, though, I'm not going to lie to you. Crickets are kind of easy in the sense that they really are susceptible to most common products. I'm not sure if you want me to name drop anything that I would use in particular. I'm a big fan of a product called Alpine WSG. It's not something that's going to be available to most of the general public. I think especially in California, you're not likely to get your hands on it. And it is a little bit pricier as far as pesticides go. But there's just so many things that I love about it. It's a very diverse product. You can use it for a lot. It has very few use restrictions, which in California is a really big deal. About the only thing you don't want to do with it is spray your plants with it. As it is like a systemic poison, it will poison like pollinators and anything that drinks from like the flowers of a plant. But like aside from that, it's one of the lower impact products as far as like your own health and safety is concerned, and it will definitely get rid of some crickets.
No, I think that's great information to share because, even, we have people listening all over the country, all over the world that, if, they call up a pest control company, that gives them the ability to say, hey, what are you going to be using? And, if they say some other product, be like, oh, have you ever heard of, what was it called? Alpine WG?
WSG. It's
WSG.
Alpine Water Soluble Granule.
Yeah. You can be like, hey, would you ever consider using this? And they can go, oh, yeah. So it gives our listeners a little bit of information on it. So
yeah, because one of the first questions, Josh, this, you've heard it time and time again. Well, is it safe? Can I use it around, my pets and my kids and me? And that's the first question. We deal with that in our industry in terms of fertilizers and so on and so forth, organic versus chemicals as well. So obviously top of mind with your customers, correct?
Oh, yeah. And actually to help maybe further answer that question, if you ever ask an exterminator whether or not the product they're applying is safe, their answer by law has to always be no. But just by definition,
right.
I mean, you have to think like a lawyer.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. You're right. I mean, by definition, the reason why you're using it, it kills.
Well, it's like this. Is it safe to drive your car?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, I think it's a little different, but.
But yeah. But hey, so Josh, just to piggyback onto the cricket conversation, if they do get into your homes, what are they eating? What are crickets looking for?
Yeah, I was going to say that's one of the questions that's coming up now. I mean,
so
aside
actually,
from escaping the cold.
Every question you're going to ask me is, I'm going to have like something to add where I'm like, well, it could be this or it could be that.
Sure, of course.
With crickets, it doesn't quite matter as much with some other bugs, but the species is actually very important. There are types of crickets that just simply won't invade your home. They have everything that they need outside, and they're large, and they're not likely to come indoors. But as far as what most crickets are eating, though, they typically are just feeding on like grain products. They'll eat like the seeds from grasses. They'll eat like decaying plant matter. Think of them as almost like herbivore scavengers, where they'll just eat whatever kind of plant material is available to them.
Got it. And so when the weather warms up, is it a natural thing for now the population to decrease inside your home because now they can be outside and they don't want to come inside your home? Is that kind of a natural cycle, or once they're in there, you got to get rid of them because they'll just keep coming back?
Again, man, it's like a yes and a no to that. So with bugs being cold-blooded, what you're going to notice is, and this is true anywhere, it actually happens less so here in California because our weather is more tempered throughout the year. But what you'll notice is a natural bell curve exists where, in the colder months, in the winter, there's very little bug activity outside, and that's in direct response to the temperature. When things are colder, bugs actually live longer lives. They don't need as much food. They live very slow, kind of methodical lives. And then when it heats up, they're that kind of flip-flops where they instead become very active. They consume a lot of resources, and they then reproduce really quickly. So you may end up with fewer crickets inside your home during the summer, but that's because there's going to be way more outside your home.
Got it. Hey, we're going to have to take another break right now, Josh. When we get back, we'll continue talking with Josh from Doug's Bug Company.
Doug's Bug Company, thank you, Josh, for being here. And again, those questions, comments keep on coming. We've got John and Tiger monitoring those questions. We'll get to as many as we can, hopefully all of them, before the show's over. Do stay with us. Going to take a break. Thank you to Fertilome, our major sponsor. Biz Talk Radio, Facebook Live, coming back after these messages on Biz Talk Radio. All right, we are back. Thank you. Boy, great show in terms of the interest today, so we'll do our best to keep you informed with one of our experts, Josh. And again, Tiger, we've got questions, we've got comments, so let's get back to it.
Yeah, and I think that we could probably go on hours about one subject.
Yeah, exactly.
But I do want to keep Josh moving because we do have a few other things to touch. So, Josh, you were saying, wintertime, bug population inside, less outside. Summertime, normally outside, and less inside. Maybe in a few questions down the road, we'll get back to ants because ants in the summertime come inside. Whole nother issue. But we do have a question from our listener, Lila, and she mentioned gopher control. We mentioned gopher control, but do you also do rabbit or squirrel? And if not, why? So, what other pests what other critters do you guys do, Josh?
Well, actually, so what you're describing is kind of an offshoot of pest control, where there are there's licensing and permits that we can get to do what's called live removal or live trapping. And that would be the approach with an animal that's considered to not be a pest. And believe it or not, there's actually a large number of animals that kind of fit that criteria here in California. One that I know people are never thrilled to hear about are voles. They're kind of like this lawn pest that will chew up your grass. And at least legally speaking, in California, they are not considered to be pests. So you cannot hire us to come out and remove a bunch of them or kill them or anything like that. But through the California Fish and Wildlife, you can get what's called a trapper's permit. And then that allows you to do live removal of things like possums, skunks, raccoons, I don't know, bobcats if you get lucky enough. There's all sorts of crazy things that can end up in someone's yard.
And so do you guys do any of those services or no?
Man, that is something that actually a lot of customers have been asking me about for quite a while. I technically do not have that license yet, and I keep saying I'm going to get it, and it just keeps getting pushed back.
Okay.
That being said, though, I was born in Florida, so I'm down to just wrestle any animal that you have. So I can always show up and just glove up and remove something from a crawl space. That's not an issue.
Yeah.
I just currently don't have the licensing to trap anything.
Well, in Florida, you've got the Black Panther, right?
Right, and that's why I think I'm not scared of anything we have here.
Exactly.
Yeah, I watched, what was that show? Tiger something?
Tiger King?
Yeah.
I
didn't
watch that.
I don't know what happens down there. But regarding gophers, because we've talked a lot about gophers
Here,
on
who
the show.
doesn't have gophers?
John's what's your count up to? 67 now?
64.
64 with the gopher hawk over here. John's been very successful.
But I'm open to other ideas. If you've got any other ideas.
Yeah. Is there anything that you've run into, Josh, that maybe is successful in just the idea of keeping them away? Maybe, I get it. Like once they're there, trapping, baiting, poisons, whatever it is. But I mean, is there anything out there that you're like, hey, if you start with this, you just won't ever have the problem?
Yeah. So that is also a little bit of a difficult question to answer. So everyone always wants an easy solution, right?
Mm-hmm.
They want to know that they can just put XYZ outside their home, and it's just going to prevent unwanted things from coming onto the property.
Exactly.
But this is the way you have to think about it. Is these animals aren't just they don't just decide, oh, I'm craving your potatoes that you're growing in your backyard, so I'm just going to decide to kind of waltz on over and eat these. Like, these are animals that are very much fighting for their lives. Like, we sometimes forget, because we get to live in like these nice, safe homes, that the world outside is not always so friendly. So, if you were starving to death, like, you're on death's door, you're not going to make it much longer, and there's a cheeseburger on a plate right in front of you, but there's a real nasty smell, in a perimeter around that cheeseburger. Are you not going to eat the cheeseburger because of the bad smell?
Yeah, you're going to take a chance.
Oh, yeah, I'll eat that cheeseburger.
You're going for the cheeseburger.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so because of that, there's all of these myths that you'll read about, especially on the internet, where unfortunately what's happened is misinformation can very easily spread when it comes to pest control, because it is entirely possible that you try one of these myths and your issue goes away.
Yeah, it works.
There is always a small chance that just occurs.
Mm-hmm.
And so when that works for you, you then think, oh, well, I did this and I no longer have this issue, so it must have prevented it or removed it or did something. And so then you share that. But again, it's not so much about like creating an unpleasant smell or something like that. And especially with gophers, a lot of it is just creating physical barriers. You know, I'm a big fan of, if you have a gopher issue where they're eating the food in your property, you know, build some plant beds. If you have the materials and the time, you can create like a raised plant bed that's on stilts or is just simply off the ground, or even is on the ground and just has a wooden bottom to it. You know, gophers are tough and they can tunnel through a lot, but they're not going to get through like 4 inches of wood.
Okay. Good to know. So do your work beforehand, and you know, hopefully go from there.
Be vigilant.
And you know, it's funny because when we talk about repellents across the board, because you know we talk a lot about you know gophers, we talk about rabbits and deer, and you know other things that eat plants. And you know, when I talk to people about repellents, I say, you know, repellents are different for everybody. I mean, you know, like what you just said, if I see a cheeseburger and it smells bad, that probably isn't going to hold me back from eating a good cheeseburger, so I'll go after it. But, you know, some people that'll work, where, you know, if I see a cheeseburger and there's somebody standing there with like,
heavily armed.
Yeah. In the way I associate it, some repellents are fear-based, right? Where like they put urine or other things where like animals think that there's these predators in the area or death. And that's going to scare me a little bit more, and I might not go for that cheeseburger. And you know, where sometimes these products are, you know, flavor based, where they put a spray on top of a leaf, you know, and you know, I'm not going to eat that because it doesn't taste good when I take it in. So you know, every repellent's different. You just got to figure out the critter that you're going for. Hey, Josh, we are going to take another break. We still do have
quite a lot of
questions to get through.
So we're gonna back up and take them in order, I would assume. On Facebook. Okay.
Yeah, when we get back from the break, Josh, you know, let's kind of regroup back to the whole ant question, because I know in Southern California during the summertime, that's a big issue. All right, but we have to take a break now.
Yep, Biz Talk Radio, the break is especially for you. News coming up top of the hour. And hopefully your market carries our second hour, because we come back at 6 minutes after, no matter what the time zone is. So, again, thank you for joining us. Those on Facebook Live, questions, comments, keep them coming. We are going to take a break for Biz Talk Radio News coming up. We come back at 6 minutes after. Facebook Live coming back even quicker, so stay with us. This is Garden America. Brian Main, John Bagnasco, Tiger Palafox, spending part of our weekend together here on Garden America. Well, hey there, we are back. Those on Biz Talk Radio, if you're just joining us, we're talking pest control today. So, again, you're not too late to join us if you did miss the first hour. The rest of us on Facebook Live, we're going to keep on going and get to your questions or comments. So let's reestablish things, reconvene Tiger and Josh, and here we go again.
Yeah, so you know, we're talking with Josh with Doug's Bug Company. Doug's Bugs is based down here in San Diego. You know, we've gotten a lot of chatter online. I did want to hit Carla. You did ask about the orange oil, and Doug's Bugs actually replied to your question on the Facebook chat. So that's the other thing for you listeners out there.
Yeah.
If you are listening to this and you missed something, or you might want to find more information, go to our Facebook page.
Right.
You can see past shows. You could scroll through the chat.
Yeah.
Some of the questions are answered right there in the chat, even though we might not answer them here on air. But Doug's Bugs did have a great answer to your orange oil question, Carla. Josh, before the break, I had mentioned we also had somebody ask about ants. And ants in the summertime in California are a big issue. And why would they be coming inside in the summertime now?
So the ant issue in California is actually one of our worst problems as far as pests go. The particular ant that you were likely experiencing is an invasive species called an Argentine ant. They were shipped over on a lot of fruit transportation between our country and Argentina, which is where they originate from. And what's so problematic about these things is that they are, first and foremost, they have one of the highest rates of reproduction. You know, instead of there being like 1 or 2 queens navigating the colony, they have a ratio. It's something absurd. It's like 1 queen to every 1,000 workers or 500 workers or something like that. So it's not uncommon for there to be these mega colonies that exist where there's hundreds and hundreds of queens all reproducing and creating all of these workers. And these ants, they kick out like native species of ants. We start to see fewer of the ants that are less problematic that kind of fit in with the environment here, because these things are just so overwhelming and they take over. And another aspect with that too is they're very social with one another. If you were to relocate a colony that exists in Argentina and bring it up here to the U.S., they would immediately start cooperating with the other Argentine ants that are already present.
Wow.
So when they find each other, they don't fight over resources; they just grow. But they do actually have some of their own weaknesses, though, as far as like treating and prevention and removal and all of that goes. Probably the number one thing that I can recommend is not overwatering outside, especially during the summer months. I understand that everyone has sensitive landscaping, and I can tell you what will prevent pests, but I'm not going to tell you like aesthetically what to plant in your yard.
Yeah.
But we live in a desert climate. Water is our most limited resource, and when you're overwatering, you're basically creating an attractive environment for these ants. And once they take hold on your property, they're going to hide underneath a stepping stone, underneath your driveway, under a walkway, something like that, and they're going to be very hard to notice until they're already inside your home.
So this Argentine ant specifically loves these really cool, damp areas where maybe if you had a desert scape, you might not have as big of an ant problem because they just wouldn't like the yard at all. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
Okay.
The two best landscaping products I can recommend, again, not gardening, but just for pest repellent purposes, is pea gravel. You actually kind of ironically already touched on the only pest that will do well in pea gravel, and that is crickets. But anything else will not do well down there. And then artificial environments too, like turf, are also not suitable for most bugs.
Oh, really? So putting down like a synthetic turf, where normally in a lawn you would have an ant colony, a cricket colony, fleas, everything else. In a synthetic lawn, none of those things are in there. They don't survive underneath that black tarp. So, it eliminates some of those issues. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
Okay.
And maybe to clarify, it doesn't mean that you'll never see a single ant in your yard if you have turf. They can still safely walk across it, but they're not likely to create a colony there.
I was going to say, I think we're all adults here and understand that we know that we'll never get rid of every bug, in our yard. I mean, so Josh, I mean, me owning a landscape maintenance company is probably a little bit like you guys in your pest management company, where people will say, hey, can you do me a favor and, clean the spider webs off of this stuff as you guys are here? I got no qualms about it. Yeah, no problem. We'll take a broom. We have one of those Webbers that we just walk around the property with and hit the eaves and, the light pillars and whatever it is that they want the spider webs off. And I think that's a great management to some degree, but the next day they're there. They're back again. And so spiders, as a landscape company, they're just part of the landscape for us. But people really have this hang up on spiders. But what do you think about the spiders in the landscape, Josh?
Oh, I think spiders are wonderful. I am one of those exterminators that, if it's not a black widow if it's just not a widow species in general.
How about a brown recluse spider?
I'm sorry?
Brown recluse.
Those don't exist here. We actually just don't have those. So that's an interesting topic to kind of offshoot onto. So if you look up every single documented brown recluse bite that's ever taken place in San Diego, it has always been from someone that lived in like Texas, Oklahoma, somewhere in the South where these things do live and they thrive. They moved here. They probably moved packages and boxes out of a basement where these things are likely to occur, and they get shipped over here with them. And then that's when the bite occurs, is when they're unpacking into their new home.
Oh, so like a brown recluse couldn't like live in San Diego or like reproduce kind of a thing?
There is no sustained population of brown recluse here.
Oh.
The closest that we have is if you go way, way, way out to like the border of Arizona, eastern Southern California, there is a desert recluse that lives out there. But it's not medically significant the way a brown recluse is.
Oh, interesting. Good.
Yeah,
to know.
that's good to know.
But the widows you do need to be careful of.
Well, it's specifically black widows. I always say that unfortunately widows don't get the pass for me when it comes to relocating, because at the end of the day, it is my job to, get rid of these things, make sure people feel safe in their homes and all of that. And I don't want, to charge someone $100 for a treatment and then they walk out the next morning and there's another spider right there that looks scary. But yeah, pretty much any other spider that's not, a brown, black, or false widow, I just chuck it over the fence.
Yeah. And because the spiders are actually doing
a
good job
Yeah.
of some of these other issues. When people talk about crickets, when people talk about, these other pests, spiders are their natural predator, right? So, don't get me wrong, like you don't got a spider killing 10,000 ants, but they're keeping a little bit of check going on.
Yeah, well,
in
they're
the
doing their
landscape.
own kind of pest control service for you as well,
Yeah.
in a very small degree.
Yeah, but you
Yeah.
mentioned in the landscape. They're
Yeah.
fine in the landscape.
It's your bathtub you have a problem with,
But
John?
No, my wife doesn't want them, under the eaves, up by the door jambs. And
Yeah. And I hate to say it, but like Janine can't handle a spider. Like I'll see a spider in our room and I'm like, leave it.
Yeah, me too.
I'm not, Janine's like, no, it cannot be in this room. And kind of like, I think, Josh, kind of like to what you kind of hinted with the bed bugs, it gives her that sense of I cannot be in this room,
Yep,
knowing this is in here, kind of a thing. So Josh, I think we have about a minute before our next break.
We got about a minute and a half.
Minute
Just
and
want
a
to
half.
make sure we're keeping up on the questions, too.
Yeah. When we get back from the break, Josh, I kind of want to cue you up because, like I say, we got these people, and it's nice. But I think Doug is actually monitoring some of the
Good.
Facebook questions too and giving some answers, which is really helping us out. When it comes to the landscape, Josh, what are some things that people need to consider, like by their house, to maybe prevent some of these issues from happening in their home? I mean, you mentioned pea gravel. Would you recommend a pea gravel barrier around the house? I mean, what about like branches touching the home and things like that? Like, are those creating bridges? So when we get back from the break, I want to hit on some of the things that you would maybe tell people to watch out for in terms of the landscape. So they, what other pests we can prevent it from coming in.
Going to get back with Josh after this break. Quick break here on Facebook Live, a bit longer on Biz Talk Radio, so do stay with us. Thank you so much. A lot of interest this morning. Want to thank Josh, doing a great job and answering those questions in terms of pests, all kinds of pests, whether they're rodents, insects, whatever. So we are going to take a break here on Garden America. I'm Brian Main, John Begnasco, Tiger Palafox. Do stay with us. Back with Josh after these messages with our good friends on Biz Talk Radio. All right, back just like that. Thank you, and a big thank you to Fertilome, our major sponsor here, 2025 on Garden America. What's bugging you? Let's find out with more, Tiger, you and Josh, and the rest of us here in Garden America.
Yeah, so Josh with Doug's Bug is joining us. And, before the break, I was saying, Josh, what are some things that people can do to their landscape surrounding their house that maybe would prevent some bugs from getting in?
Yeah, so that is also a very potentially deep question. One of the most important things that I can think of, you touched on this a little bit, but it has to do with plants touching the exterior of your home. I'm a big fan of growing your own food. If you have an orange tree in your backyard, keep it alive, feed it, eat the oranges, like things like that. But there still are wrong ways to go about that. Like if you have an orange tree that's growing within a foot of the foundation of your home, it's inevitably going to have tree branches that reach up onto the roof. And that's an issue because, you have rodents outside that are looking to eat those oranges. And if you're putting their food on a ladder that then gives them access to the interior of your home, you're kind of just creating your own problem there. But that issue extends to more than just rodents because even if you are paying for a pest service, like we have some limitations in what we can offer. So like the paid services that would come to your home, the service that we actually perform is what's called structural pest control. It's not agricultural. We have certain licensing that allows us to do what are called landscape treatments. But one consistent limitation that we are all faced with is we cannot treat anything that can potentially be consumed by people. So if you have something like herbs growing in a plant bed around the foundation of your home, or you do have these fruit trees that are close to your house and are touching it, if you then have ants, let's say, that are trailing up that tree and into your house, we basically can't do anything about it other than, suggest that you cut back the tree branches or maybe do it ourselves if you'll allow us. But There's a lot of like common sense things like that to try and keep in mind.
Yeah, and I mean, because like what you just said, I mean, the ants are there for whatever reason, whether there's scale or mealybug or some other kind of pest on the plant, and now you just provided it to that bridge into your home where now they're looking for the food that's left out, or the stuff in your teenage daughter's room that's just stuffed under her bed. Not naming any names, Tasia.
No, not at all.
Like I'm like, why are there ants in your room? I don't know, Dad. Let's take a look. Why is this plate left under your bed? I mean, but you gave them that opportunity to get in there. So if you can prevent that opportunity, they'll stay outside. They're perfectly fine harvesting mealybugs or whatever it is that they're on the tree for. Don't give them the chance to come in the house. Now you mentioned, also before, overwatering. So does moisture right up next to the house also create a problem for anything like termites or any of these other critters? Should you kind of keep it dry away from the house?
Oh, yes. That is also a very, very potentially deep topic to get into. So one of the more damaging and significant types of termites that you can get in your home are what are called subterranean termites. They're most likely to occur if you have a crawl space under your house, but even on a slab foundation, you can still end up with them. And there's a lot that attracts them. I mean, having like mulch around the exterior of your home, it locks in moisture and it's food for them. So it's kind of like a double whammy, having mulch around the exterior. I'm trying to remember what the actual number is, but I believe the moisture content underneath your home needs to remain under 30% or 28% if you were to get like a humidity reader down there. But anything above that will create a suitable environment for these termites. And a lot of that does kind of start and end with how you care for your lawn and your garden and, just any soil that exists outside your home.
Yeah. Yeah. So, monitoring that right up next to the house is super important. But it just doesn't look as pretty, Josh. So we still do have those people that plant right up next to the house. I don't want to see my foundation, so I'm going to plant this star jasmine right here, and it'll be okay. But then you just got to be willing to live with the bugs. You just got to be able to, withstand that. So Josh, tell us a little bit more about how people can get in touch with Doug's Bugs. Maybe some contact information. We had, I don't know if I listed it. One of our listeners from Orange County was like, "Hey, you sound amazing and knowledgeable. Would you ever come up here and help us out in Orange County?" So how do people get a hold of Doug's Bugs?
Well, I hate to say this, but we're not servicing Orange County right now. It's a little bit of a stretch for us. We are a very small local company. We're based off of Rosecrans in Point Loma. And that's actually where I want to say close to 70-80% of our business is just in that Point Loma OB area. We've slowly been expanding and growing north a little ways. I know now we go as far north as like Del Mar, sometimes up into Encinitas,
That's
and areas
good.
like that.
Yeah.
But that's still a ways away from Orange County. And it's hard for us to grow because we are a small company. We can't just decide to open another office up there. We would need brand new employees and vehicles and all of that stuff. But continuing to use us helps us to slowly and organically grow. We don't do any of the aggressive sales tactics. We're not knocking on your door telling you to sign a 2-year contract for pest control or anything like that. So all of our growth is just through word of mouth, good opportunities like this. The more that people decide to support the business, the more that we're able to grow. And maybe one day we will be servicing Orange County. You never know.
Exactly. And Doug's Bug Co. So Doug's Bug Company, but just co.com is your guys' website. So, if you're looking for more information or looking for an opportunity for Josh to come out and maybe help you out with your pest problem, visit their website, and they have all the information to get a hold of them. Josh, thank you very much for joining us. Lots of great information. Doug, thank you for joining us on the Facebook chat and answering. So if you're still on the Facebook chat, you don't see your question answered, Doug's right there. He'll answer it for us.
Doug's
as well.
going to hang in there. We appreciate that.
Yeah. So, Josh, have a great rest of the weekend. You take care.
Thank you as well.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you, Josh. Wowee. You bring somebody on or you tease it in the newsletter, and you wonder, how much interest is this going to garner? Safe to say we hit it out of the park.
Yeah, and it's kind of like a gardening thing where I hate to put people on the spot like that, but it is like, oh, is my plant being underwatered or overwatered? It's like, well, I mean, you got to tell me some more information.
Yeah.
Kind of depends, and that's a bit about pest control. But it sounds like he's such an expert that if you have an opportunity to meet someone like him to come out and help you, he's going to give you the solution that's correct.
Especially because they're a
your
small
problem.
company compared to a huge company coming out. There's a little more intimacy involved.
Yeah.
You almost feel like, I got a good one-on-one with him. Chances are I'm going to see the same guy come back again if I need to use them.
Yeah.
We talked about the water, so on and so forth with ants, which we can talk about more, but we got to take a break. So going to take a break for Biz Talk Radio. After that, 2 more segments. Whatever's on your mind, here we go. Big thank you to Josh and Doug. And again, taking a break, Biz Talk Radio, Garden America, back after these messages. All right. Batteries not included. We are back. It is Garden America. We've got 2 more segments. This, by the way, is the longer segment of the next 2 coming up, so do stay with us. Quickly on the ant thing in the summertime, what's the first thing that you hear? Normally when we see ants in the house, somebody says, you know why they're here? They're looking for water.
You know what my problem is with ants at home because of all the roses in containers? During the summer, occasionally a colony will get in one of those containers because those are being watered every day.
And it's that soft soil that, would you rather dig through hard DG and clay?
Or happy frog.
Exactly.
Yeah, happy frog, really.
Yeah. It's funny. Those ants are just, all they have to do is push out their little cavern in their hole where, your native soil, they got little jackhammers and, going to work.
Taro granules work really well.
I've always loved the Taro product for ants.
Yeah.
I mean, what they mentioned in terms of if you can find where they're coming in and you put that Taro bait station in your home right there, they just go to that and then they never go anywhere else in your house, which is wonderful. You just kind of control it, from coming in. Sometimes it's kind of hard to find the source, though, so you got to kind of you put it one place, and then you see where the trail's coming from, then you move it closer to the entrance.
You talked about Janine and spiders. I can't live with the spiders, not going to, whatever.
Right. I'm
kind of the same way with ants when we have them, even if they're in the house. And Dana's like freaking out, and no, they cannot stay here. We have to get rid of them. And I guess because when I grew up, it was very common to have ants in the house. And I
used
just
to have them in your pants, right?
Occasionally.
Yeah.
But I'm like,
no, I can't tolerate ants in the house.
I'm not saying I'm
outside, no problem.
I'm not saying that I'm not
going
to get rid of them. It's just, to me, it's like, well, if I don't do it now, I'll do it later in the afternoon or whatever. And she's like, no, right now we have to get rid of them.
Yeah.
I think the worst.
I agree with you, Dana.
Yeah.
I think the worst thing about ants in the house is that you just have to constantly be cleaning up after yourself if you have them in your house.
That's true.
Meaning, like if you don't have ants in your house and you leave that dish on the counter,
right.
And you go to bed at night.
Yeah, you come up in the morning, they're going to be all over it.
Over it.
Yeah.
And that's
Here's another one.
Yeah.
Make sure the lid's tight.
Oh, yeah.
If you open the honey, make sure that lid is tight.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's my biggest thing with the ants is like I like to be able to go to bed at night, put a plate near the sink, and then just be like, when I get up in the morning, I'll throw it in the dishwasher or I'll wash it or whatever it is. But when you have ants, you cannot leave any of that stuff out.
I'm glad we don't have fire ants.
Yeah, right?
Oh, my gosh. And they actually
They hurt.
Did they come in? They came in like south, right? Louisiana, down south. They moved into Texas.
I think they started in Florida.
Yeah.
And then started to move. As a matter of fact, that was a big chapter in Rachel Carson's book, Silent Spring, in 1961.
Way back in 61.
Yeah. And they had started, and the government decided that they were going to start a campaign to eradicate fire ants before they moved west.
Uh-huh.
And they started aerial spraying of either dieldrin or aldrin, one of the chlorinated hydrocarbons. And they went over entire landscapes and neighborhoods They had birds dropping dead out of
Yeah,
trees.
yeah.
Lizards and everything.
Yeah, and it wasn't until they realized how many things were being killed
Yeah.
that somebody checked and saw the chemicals they sprayed did not kill fire ants.
Oh my goodness.
You know, it's just some of the things that have been done.
Yeah,
It's just
yeah.
so ridiculous and stupid.
You know,
that's
that's how we evolve. That's how we learn. I mean,
Strongest survive, that kind of thing.
yeah, I mean, I hate to say it, but it's true. I mean, I was at a meeting this week, and just by weird coincidence, they brought up the idea of, you know, when cigarettes were removed from advertisements, right?
1971.
Correct. Good job. You did. It was a little trivia section of this meeting.
Yeah.
1971, exactly when it was. You know, but then the person posted there were cigarette ads before that it was like doctor recommended,
I'll find you
or
right
like
now.
you know, health. You know, if you have these issues, this will help you.
Or
I
you
can
go
go-
to
I-
a doctor's office and he'd be smoking a
smoking a
cigarette.
Yeah, I can go to Google right now and show you one of those ads. You know,
Yeah.
9 out of 10 doctors prefer Chesterfield.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
You know, yeah, and
And-
they were everybody was
and,
smoking.
And I mean, I don't know if it was ignorance. I don't know if it was people lying to us, but it was just they didn't, you know, to some degree they didn't know, and so then you learn and
they
move on.
you know,
People were more trusting back then, too. Now I think there's a lot
That's
more
true.
skeptics
Yes.
than there
That's
were
true.
back then.
because of those lies.
and you know what? To prove that point, because you know, pop culture says a lot about where you are and what the reality is at any given time.
Yeah.
You go back to watching any old TV show, movie, whatever. Everybody's smoking.
Yeah.
Everybody's. It was like you had a cigarette. Everybody was smoking and drinking.
But it goes back to kind of like what we're talking about with the products that people use in their gardens, you know, because you're told it works. You know, Miracle Grow. You're told it works. You know all these products. You're told they work. That you trust that they're looking out for the best. You trust that you're going to work and they're going to, you know, be effective. But sometimes we have to, you know, do worry about the repercussions overall. That's why I like that. I like the direction our industry is moving into, where, you know, we're more specific as far as whether the problem is. The fertilizers, we're more focused on feeding the soil, not just the plant anymore. We're more willing to just let bugs coexist with our plants. I like that because I think that we're going to see a better landscape overall in general.
The
with
one
that.
thing that John's story about the fire ants
Mm-hmm.
that just sent me off was, then they discovered that it doesn't really kill them at all.
Yeah.
Okay, so what did they do beforehand? Wouldn't you want to take a group of fire ants in a controlled
You
environment?
would think,
Well,
right?
I think they probably just assumed because it killed everything else,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, that's the strongest thing we have.
Yeah.
Is that kind of like the DDT
Yeah.
experience that we went through?
Well, but it did kill everything.
Well, DDT was very effective against mosquitoes,
Yeah.
and that's what
Yeah.
they originally started for malaria control. But again, back to Rachel Carson's book, DDT, the main problem with it was humans stored it in their fat cells
Yeah.
for 30, 40 years. So if food you ate had DDT in it, it was there,
It was
virtually
there all the way you
forever.
left, and it just accumulated. Kind of
Yeah.
like they talk about the
Right.
fish in
Right.
the ocean. It's the food chain.
With the mercury.
The
too.
mercury, yeah.
You know, the higher on the food chain are the fishes, the higher content of mercury, and that's the thing with the DDT is that you just kept getting it, and if you kept getting it, next thing you know, you're 60 years old, and you know it's
One
not
thing,
doing well.
Getting back to the cigarette thing for a second, 1971, all advertising, radio, TV, for the most part, I believe. But for the next couple, 2 or 3 years, you could still have like a sign or a poster, like at the stadium after 1971.
Oh, like a billboard or
There
something
was a
like
billboard, the Marlboro Man. That, for some reason, was okay for a while, and they gradually phased that out as well. But two people on a beach smoking cigarettes and playing volleyball, yeah, you didn't see that anymore.
I love the lifestyle that they like thought that like
Oh,
it's like,
yeah.
hey, if you smoke, you're definitely going to be playing volleyball.
Oh, yeah,
and,
your
you
life's
know.
going to be so much better.
Yeah.
Hey, quickly back to the DDT thing. The USDA outlawed DDT residue in milk
Yeah.
because they felt milk was going to children,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't want to be giving children, who have much smaller bodies, are going to be more affected by poisons. So it was outlawed, and then there was no more milk that did not have DDT
Oh, geez.
residue. So they put a limit on what it could be. Then there was no more under that limit.
Oh my goodness!
And they raised it 3 or 4 times
Before they actually could have milk.
And then finally they came out with a statement that said it's not important to check for DDT in milk.
They're like, oh goodness,
Yeah.
we dug ourselves a hole and now we're in trouble.
And as they were doing tests, they wanted to have control subjects. They could not find anyone
who didn't have it,
that didn't have DDT except Eskimos.
oh my goodness.
So they brought Eskimos down from Alaska and used them, but I think they went through a 3-month testing period down here. They did their tests and they found out when the Eskimos left, they had DDT residues stored in their fat. So
You know, speaking of advertising, it used to be in radio. The first 20 years I was in radio, but it goes back a lot further than that. You could only advertise beer and wine. You could not mention bars,
Hard
couldn't
alcohol.
mention happy hour, couldn't mention well drinks, couldn't do any of that. And of course, that went by the wayside. Now it's all fair game. But you couldn't. It was beer and wine. That was it. Don't promote hard liquor.
Whoa. Yeah, I mean, it's funny. Funny the way things, we evolve as a society and move in different directions. But I do like the direction that we are moving into with our industry because I think we've learned. We've got to take care of the soil.
Right?
Plants need bugs just like we need plants.
We got to take a break here real
all
quick.
right.
And one more segment. Don't mean to cut you off.
That's it?
If you can
One more spot?
one more well, that Doug, you know what? Doug's Pest
That's
Control and
great.
Josh made time go by really quick. We're going to take a break. Biz Talk Radio, Brian Main, John Bagnasco, Tiger Palafox here on Garden America. All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is the final segment. Already flew right by.
there's so much we could talk about.
There's a lot to talk about. Now, let me ask
I've
you.
had to bite my tongue several times.
Of course, the filter's working. You changed the filter last night. Was it last night you changed your filter?
The old one was clogged up.
Yeah. Well, it was clogged, but still the old filter allows certain things to get through
Yeah, there are a lot of holes.
that you don't want to get through. So besides gophers, John, at your place,
Yeah.
what's your other biggest pest that you have to deal with?
Well, we mentioned ants, but taro is a sure control for them. As I replant a plant into a larger pot now, I put soil on the bottom of the pot. Then I sprinkle in taro granules, and then I put in more soil, and then put the plant in there. And I find that
That's
does a
good.
great job.
Yeah.
I do it on every single plant.
Yeah, because they love living up in those pots.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes
Not only
when you buy a plant from a nursery and you take it out, and you just see the colony of ants in there.
And, since I've been doing the taro, I also do not have troubles with sow bugs and earwigs the way they were, because they were huge too.
Yeah, and it lists those on the packaging as well, which is really nice. Yeah.
Yeah. So I like taro in taro. I'm trying to think now. I think the chemical used to be deltametharin,
Not sure.
and I'm not sure if it still is, but that was a synthetic pyrethroid. And pyrethrins come from mums, chrysanthemums, so they were organic pesticides, and this is a synthetic organic.
Yeah,
if that makes sense. But so it's a little safer, but still the most effective thing I've ever found.
It's high fructose corn syrup.
Oh, that's good for you.
Basically.
John and I have talked about this before.
Not
I
sugar.
remember as a kid in the garage. Okay, first of all, I'm a kid. I'm going to get into things,
Oh, yeah, of course.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old. I can't tell you how many bottles we had, probably fertilizer, probably, rat poison, mouse poison, brown bottles with a skull and crossbone. Just take the lid off and use it.
Yeah.
And it's like, really?
Living down in PB, you guys probably had a pretty good rodent problem.
Yeah. And sand
Pacific
fleas.
Beach is one of those areas where, dense population, a lot of
You kind of learn to live with it too after a
Yeah.
while. It's like,
Yeah.
whatever. What is this? A sand flea? Just brush it off. You'll be okay. Back in the day, it's like, brush it off. You'll be okay. I hit my head. Yeah, you know what? Shake it off. You're fine.
There was a YouTube video recently, and I think it was somewhere in Europe, and it was a police officer in a grocery store. They were in the cheese aisle or something, and they were called in there because there was a critter, but they couldn't tell what the critter was. It was up in the fridge. So this police officer is pulling on this critter, and you see it pulling tail. It came out. It was a coyote.
In a refrigerator.
It was in a refrigerator in the cheese aisle of a grocery store. And the police officers, they didn't know what they were pulling on, but until it came out, it was a coyote that went running through the whole grocery store now. But, then this person came on who was a critter
Do they have
expert.
coyotes in Europe?
I don't know.
Aren't they North American mammals?
Probably then somewhere, but it wasn't California.
Could have been a wolf.
No, it wasn't a wolf.
Oh.
It was,
a derivative of a canine.
But here was the thing. The critter expert said there is like a 99% chance that a coyote will never bite you, in the sense of like they're more scared.
Yes,
they're a skittish creature.
Yeah,
like,
but if you're pulling on their tail.
well, but no, this coyote, even with this guy pulling on his tail, it got pulled out and then it ran away. It did not try to
it was
bite
scared.
at the person. My dog bites me more than this coyote did. But it was just an amazing thing that, like, I was like, if I see a fluffy tail and I can't see the head,
You don't know what it is?
I'm not pulling
No.
on its tail.
No.
No way, ever.
I like coyotes personally.
Yeah,
I
because they help get rid of some of the population of what.
Well, squirrels and rabbits, are a horrible problem.
They just have, they just can't do a roadrunner though. Can't get them.
When are you gonna? I thought you were gonna start a zoo at some point up there. You're gonna build cages and put some animals on display.
I wish that fur coats were still popular because
You got
gopher
a
coats,
gopher
I
pelt.
would think they'd be,
Yeah,
they'd be
gopher-
rare, right?
Yeah,
Is that a gopher coat? That's fabulous.
beautiful.
Where did you
Look
get
at
it?
that and the
Oh, my
colors in
goodness.
there.
That's
Well, we had
that's
to
a
dye
big
it.
Nosco original.
Yeah.
They make them in Fallbrook.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the only place
Farm-
you can get them.
Farm to table, farm to
Right?
closet, clothing right there.
Oh my gosh,
Oh.
gophers are.
I lo-
I think
I love
gopher.
that
Go ahead.
animals take them away for you. Like, you don't even put them in your trash can. You just leave the.
Oh no, that would be mean. I think to just kill a gopher
And
who's
then-
just trying to survive. But if
Yeah.
you're using it to feed another animal,
And I love that you just leave
Yes.
it and then it's gone the next day.
oh, every single day, it's never once
Gone.
left over.
that's
Just
amazing.
gone. Now, I would imagine how many species of snakes do you have? I know you have rattlesnakes, right? But I'm just thinking.
Gopher snakes.
Yeah, some snakes would.
King
would
snakes.
Coyotes would eat
three,
that.
three that I know of.
Snakes would eat a gopher.
Hawks.
Yeah.
You have wild hogs up there?
Hawks.
Hawks. Yeah.
I did not say
hawks.
hogs.
Oh, you know what? I had a picture.
Yeah, but yeah, the predatory. Yes, exactly.
I should have shared with you. Had a video of in the chicken coop. Jesse called me and he says, I need help. I got to get something out of the chicken coop. So went down there. He wouldn't tell me what it was. He says, I just want you to see. And it was a falcon
In the chicken coop?
in the chicken coop.
Whoa.
Really a beautiful
Oh,
bird.
they are pretty.
But I said, all right, hold the door open. Let's feed the chickens so that they're not going to run out when you open the door. So they were preoccupied, and we sent them over to one corner of the coop. And then I said, I'll go around and chase the hawk this way, or the falcon this way, and you open the door and it'll fly out. Well, my first attempt, instead of going the other way, it came right at me.
Oh, goodness.
Which can be scary.
Oh, yeah.
So I just ducked down and then got a broom and pushed it a little bit, and it ended up going out.
Did it get one of your chickens, though?
No, it was a falcon, not
How
a
did
hawk.
it? How did
Okay,
it get
so
in
They
there?
were about this big. I guess they could get a chicken, but
So it was going for the food of the chickens, probably.
I would think so.
it
yeah.
wasn't going for the chicken.
But no, how
I
did
don't
it
think
get
so.
in? It was small enough to.
Well, see, that's another question. How did it get in? Because we've had bobcats out there, and if a hawk can get in, you would think a bobcat could get in.
Yeah.
Wow, look at we have to say bye bye, adios, sayonara, and all those other ways to say goodbye. Hey, thank you so much. Want to thank Doug's Pest Control. Thank.
Veronica wondered if that was a fox, if it was Europe rather than a coyote.
No, it was a coyote, so it
Okay.
must have not been Europe.
All right.
All right. Well, we're going to figure this out. We come back next week. We'll spend a whole week thinking about that. Thank you for joining us. We do appreciate it. Have yourself a good rest of your weekend, a great week, and we'll do it again next week. We will reconvene, as we like to say here. On behalf of the entire crew, I'm Brian Main, Tiger Palafox, John Begnasco, Fertilome, thank you all. Great listeners on BizTalk Radio, Facebook Live. Enjoy yourself. We'll do it again next week right here on Garden America. Take care.